So this is what we're trying to do, to help you realize that you can do more than what you think you can do.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Peter O. Estévez Show. This is your host, Peter O. Estévez. Today we have my dear friend from New York, Deyanira Martinez. Deyanira is an author. She's the author of multiple bilingual books. She is a speaker, and she is a presenter of she's a bilingual journalist and the presenter of a show in the Caribbean. But most importantly, she's the founder or co-founder of Mujeres que se atreven a superar sus límites. And that's actually where I met Deyanira a few weeks ago in Austin, Texas, where she was having an event for the weekend. And I went to the event to learn about Deyanira, to learn about the incredible women that she is empowering through her program, Mujeres que se atreven. And I was really, really intrigued by the work that she's doing, and also extremely grateful. As most of y'all know in my community, I am passionate about introducing education, transformation, motivation, and anything that empowers the Latin community. And Deyanira is one of those people that intrigued me. Her work intrigued me. The whole conference that she had over the weekend was very, very empowering. She showcased about 30 women throughout the event, and each and every single one of them had their own story of success, of how they overcame challenges, of how they overcame adversity. But they also had some powerful tools that they gave the audience, which they could take back home and implement in their daily lives, in their businesses, in their family home lives, in social media, and so on and so forth. So with that in mind, let me introduce you, Deyanira Martinez. Hello, Deyanira. Welcome.
Hello, Peter.
To the show.
Hello, Peter. What a pleasure to be on your show. And it was a pleasure to having our conference in Texas last week.
Well, you know what? It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting. It was very enlightening. There was a lot of information, but I wanted to get started right there. You know, I started a movement called Excelente, which is a movement to identify, inspire, educate, transform, and empower 100 million people by December 31st, 2028. And,
oh my God. And I love the name, Excelente. What a great name.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you know, that is my mission. And with that in mind, I want to be able to not only learn about other Latinos that have a mission in mind to empower our communities, but I want to know about your work. I want to know what you're doing. And I want to know how Mujeres que se atreven a superar sus límites was born, and what was it? What is the story behind it?
Mujeres que se atreven y superan límites started during the pandemic. I co-founded this movement along Alba Leticia. Alba Leticia is originally from Texas. And we were like trying to find ways to get some sort of professional visibility. And we were always collaborating, like you share what I do, I invite you to what I do. And I said, why don't we get a whole bunch of women? We know all these amazing women, and we start working together and showcases each other. And the best way to do it is through a book. What is your story? What do you do? How do you get where you are? How do you overcome a divorce, the bankruptcy, all of that? So we got our friends together, and we decided to create this book without knowing that this was going to be such a boon and a blessing to everyone involved. Out of that, everybody started like moving along, creating conference, growing, expanding what they do. And the most important thing, discovering their power. A lot of women out there, especially Latinas, has a lot of power, sometimes financial resources, and they don't know how to use it or how to help others with those powers or with those resources. So this is what we're trying to do, to help you realize that you can do more than what you think you can do.
And actually, you have done the first volume and just recently released a second volume, okay? Yeah. And I heard stories of incredible women in there. You said something that is really key and that I truly believe in, you know, about sharing their story. The easiest way to share the stories through your book, right? And I think there's incredible stories in the Latina community, in the Hispanic community, of adversity, of overcoming challenges, of breaking dysfunctional cycles of behaviors, of breaking in dysfunctional belief systems that no longer serve us. Tell me one of the most fascinating stories that you have heard through the incredible women that you have met that has really impacted you and has created some impact through the community that you are building.
We have so many wonderful stories, but let me see. If I think about one that is my favorite, I don't think I have one, because each story it's like such a wonderful process of self-discovering. And such a wonderful process of knowing that it doesn't matter where you are, you can always move on. We have women that attempted to take their life away because they thought they were not worthy, even though they have master degrees, they have raised families, they have purchased home. We have stories of women that have to cross the border, buy food, and came to the United States and were able to build a company and are millionaires today. We have stories of women that were abused, were beaten by their husbands. So many incredible stories, but the most important thing is know where they're coming from. It's what they have done with their stories and how come those stories can inspire so many other women, and how those stories show you, like, give me a break, what I'm doing. I mean, if she did that, if she was able to overcome that, why am I stuck in my life? If she didn't know English, she didn't have legal documents in the United States, and she was able to create wealth, to create a company, to empower others. What is stopping me from doing it?
I love that. I've always said that Latinos, Hispanos, we are entrepreneurial by default, right? Because we come from a very resourceful background.
Absolutely.
We have to be innovative. We have to be creative. You know, I know my father had multiple jobs, had multiple side hustles before Gary Vee even invented the side hustle. Okay. and he wasn't trying to be cool. He was trying to support his family. You know, I'm one of 13 children. So my father had multiple jobs. He had multiple side hustles. So there's an entrepreneurial survival skill shift that we develop as Latinos. And you just said it. A lot of those stories need to be told, need to be shared in order for people to be able to learn that there's possibilities in your story, that our stories, you know, when you are telling your story, when your colleagues are telling their story, we're not telling our story because they're unique. We are telling that story because it is a story of many, and we are sharing our stories in service in order to empower other men and women to share their story, so others can share their story as well, and we learn and catapult from one another. Now, there's a lot of myths in our community, in our cultures. There's a lot of belief system. You know, one of them that comes to mind is "calladita te ves más bonita."
Absolutely.
In other words, for women is you look prettier when you don't talk, right?
I even have a teacher that said, "Calladita no te ves más bonita."
So let's talk about that myth and what that means and how and why women should break.
Listen, we were raised, most of us, either in Latin American or were raised by parents that were raised in Latin American. And the thinking was like, don't say much, be quiet, be pretty, don't mess up with the elderly, don't mess up with authority, just do what you have been said. And it has been so hard to break with that stereotypes for many of us, including for myself, because, and especially when we came to the States, the lesson is be grateful that you made it. Be grateful that you have a job. Be grateful that they hire you in the company. So don't say anything. Be invisible so you can stay there. Don't make noise. And we need to overcome that. I mean, we bring so much to the table. We bring talent. We bring resilience. We are, in most of the cases, the best worker everywhere. We are always on time. We are so hungry to succeed that we do anything that it's asked for us to do. So we have to realize that we are not weak anymore. We are, how many millions are we in the United States? What is your spending power?
Absolutely. There's 62.1 million Hispanics in the U.S. as of 2020 census, and it is estimated that by 2060 there would be 111 million Hispanics, and one out of four people in the U.S. would be Latinos.
Will be Latino. Spending powers is in the $1 trillion. So if we have so much money,
$6.1 trillion that we contribute to the GDP. Okay. But there's other factors, because I don't want to get lost there. Those are incredible numbers. And I'm glad that you bring them up. but a lot of times we minimize our value, our worth, our purchasing power, our contribution to the economy by holding on to a belief system that no longer serves us. And also by keeping our head down, by believing that if we don't rock the boat, we are going to keep the job. If we become unseen or unnoticed, we're going to get promoted. Well, you can't get promoted. People don't know you're there.
Nobody knows about you.
Okay, and so there's other elements that are affecting those numbers. Like, for example, Deyanira, there's 33%, okay, of the Hispanics or Latinos in the U.S. do not have a high school degree. Okay, over 40% only speak Spanish, and over 50% in most states do not have a driver's license. Those are barriers to entry to mainstream consumerism, to mainstream being able to earn an above minimum wage living. Those are barriers to success. Those are barriers that would hold us back. You and I had a conversation the other day before the pre-interview for the podcast, and we talked about the fact that a lot of times we come into the U.S. in pursuit of the American dream, but we continue to live like we're back in our home country. We continue to simulate our culture in our home and in our community, and we don't extend and become bicultural or bilingual. And that is our superpower. To be bicultural and to be bilingual is a superpower. It is the ability to be able to understand both cultures and both communities and both languages. That gives us the ability to grow and expand. So how do we break those myths? How do we become mainstream? What else do we need to do?
For me, one of the most important things is to teach your American children Spanish, so you can keep the culture and you can keep the language. And like, I have relatives that have been here for 40 years. They don't speak English because they study the same bubble, like watching telenovelas, just going to the local bodegas. So we need to expand. We need education. It's something that we really need to do. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Because I'm going to tell you my particular case. When I came to the US, I went through a very deep and painful transformation because I thought that I was not good enough because I couldn't speak English as everybody else. I thought that my degree in the Dominican Republic was no good. And even doing this with you today, because even for us, listening to ourselves, talking and acting, it's painful. Because we are not used to listen people talking and acting.
Well, it's probably more painful for my audience, but it's okay.
But why? Because they're not used to see that. Because if you have an accent, like in my case, you stay on the side. Like, I don't want to talk because I'm gonna, sound different. But by doing it, so it's when you get better. And by doing it, so when people start getting used to see that there are people, there are Americans out there that do speak with an accent. So we have to go out there, not be afraid, speak up, go to college, get involved in the culture, get involved in the community, go to the local library, to the local schools, be a part of what is going on. Don't stay in your home because you're afraid to see people, because you're afraid of rejection, because rejection will happen. I think every Latino, everybody that get out of their comfort zone have experienced rejection. And you know what? It's painful, but it's part of the process.
Absolutely. And let's talk about education, because you talked about the fact that we need to get educated.
Absolutely.
We need to get out of our bubble. We need to become involved with the community. We came to America to be part of the American dream, not part of the Dominican dream, not part of the Mexican dream, not part of the Puerto Rican dream, but part of the American dream. And to be able to live the American dream is to be able to become mainstream in the American culture, right? So to do, if you go to Rome, do as the Romans, right? When you come to America, do as the Americans. But there's a lot of confusion among the millennials and among the Gen Zers. And I want to talk about this because I think this is a very important factor, and I talk about it often. When they hear somebody like Grant Cardone, or they hear somebody like Gary Vee, or a lot of the mainstream personal development gurus that have really achieved tremendous success and have really paved the way for people like you and I to begin to be part of those stages, right? But we hear about, we hear people say, well, Elon Musk dropped out of college. okay? Or Mark Zuckerberg didn't finish his degree.
Harvard degree.
Okay, a lot of us, a lot of our Jay-Zers, a lot of our millennials, a lot of the younger generations, particularly Latinos, we need to understand that we don't have an educational pedigree, that our parents were not engineers or scientists, that our parents were not lawyers and doctors, that our parents were not had the highest intellectual IQs, not because they didn't possess it, but because it was not developed. We don't come from that type of pedigree. So we need to realize that for a lot of us, it is not only a necessity, it's imperative for us to pursue higher education.
Right, that's circle.
So we can create a path for future generations. So we are able to have this type of conversations. The reality is that a lot of the conversations that you and I are having and holding in the rooms outside of the podcast is because we pursued education, right? Whether it was through reading, whether it's personal development, whether it was attending masterminds or master classes, okay? Or conferences or events. We need to continue to be on a path of education because our parents didn't have it. I don't know about you, Deyanira, but my father had a 3rd grade education. My mother had a 6th grade education. So I was destined to be illiterate, okay? And I don't say that to be disrespectful to my parents. I just say that as a reality. Had I not pursued to educate myself, to really soak into reading and learning and researching, I would be an ignorant person. And I think that we need to accept that and realize that a college degree is not for everybody, okay? And not everyone needs to go to college, but everybody needs to education. Chime in on that and tell me what you believe.
Everybody, absolutely. Everybody need to be educated. And some of our, like, I'm in the same situation that you are. Like, my parents have a very elementary education. When I came to the States, I already have a college education, and I decided to pursue an education here because I said the only way that I'm gonna feel that I really belong is to getting an education here. And it's imperative. You don't have to go to Harvard to be educated. Right now, you can take a technical course. You can, I don't know, take a mastermind, internship. There are so many conferences out there. There's so many people that are helping other people to succeed, either in business or, I don't know, corporate America, and even most companies have an ERG group right now, but you really need to educate yourself. And some people don't realize, Peter, how hard is for somebody that it's coming from another country, like to work in America, like you're working double. Like I'm having this interview with you, like I'm a professional speaker in Spanish, like I become a giant when I'm on stage. But now I have to deal with the fact that this is English, this is a different environment, and I have to like do the job in Spanish and in English. And even when you're like in your office work, if you're Latino and your first language is Spanish, you're doing work in English. So you're exercising so many different parts of your brain that the other people don't have to deal with that. So you're working 3 times more than everybody else.
Absolutely. And I want to commend you for that, because I know when we first talked, you were a little reluctant to doing the interview in English, right? So, and I kind of push you to do it because I encourage you to do it because I think that you bring a lot to the table. You have a lot to offer. And I think it's the stories like yours, what you're doing in your community, the community that you're building, what you're doing with incredible women, with your program, Mujeres que se atreven y superan sus límites, what you're doing, it is what I'm trying to do. But I am trying to do it in English, and I am trying to do it mainstream, and I'm trying to do it across the board. I am, our mission, our purpose, our values is to be able to identify, to inspire, to educate, to empower other people that are on the sidelines, that are watching, okay? I know what happens it used to happen to me. I would go to a seminar on how to get rich quick, right? I would go and attend it, and then I didn't know how to implement the systems because I didn't have I didn't have a background of knowing what to do afterwards. I got all excited, I got motivated, but I did not get transformed, and I did not get educated. And I think
just to buy a home, sorry to interrupt, just to buy a home, so many Latinos have the money and they don't know what are the steps to buy a home.
Absolutely.
Just to go to college. I remember when I came here, I didn't find anybody who could explain me how to transfer my credits from the Dominican Republic to here. So you know what I did? I did the whole career all over again. Imagine that. And so many of us are going through the same. It's not that we have the money and we are smart. We just don't know how to navigate the system.
Exactly. So I think it is imperative that we learn to navigate the system. And I think the primary, for me, very early on, when I was a young boy, I became my parents' translator, right? I was 10 years old. My mom didn't speak English. My father spoke very, very little English. So they went to the doctor. I was a translator. If they went to a government office, I was a translator. If we went to the grocery store, I was a translator. Whatever one, I became the translator. So I'm not unique. There's many Latinos that have played that role for their families. And we have had to learn to grow and mature at a faster rate than most people. But now we need to teach our children to utilize that skills in a different way, to find an easier system to navigate, to find a way to navigate the world with that they don't have to go to the school of hard knocks. We used to think that it was so cool. I went to the school of hard knocks. Well, you should be proud of that. Go get an education. Go get prepared. Exactly. It doesn't have to be difficult.
And Peter, imagine the parents also with educational systems. I sing and I've been volunteering, translating for parents in some of the schools. And the kids tell the parents whatever they want to tell the parents. So there's sort of disconnection with the teachers and the parents, and the kids are getting away with everything because the parents, they don't know how to communicate with the teachers. They're intimidated by the system. They don't read the communications. So that's the reason why so many kids are dropping schools. So many Latino kids are not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I completely agree. Deyanira, one of the reasons that I started not only the podcast, but the movement, and I want to hear about your experience. I entered the space of personal development in 2008. Okay. My mother passed away. We were facing one of the worst economies in the world at that particular time. It was a recession. A terrible economy. It was the collapse of the economy, the real estate collapse. And my wife asked me for a divorce. My father passed away 6 months later. I mean, it was loss after loss after loss after loss. And I remember wanting to, how do I do things differently? How do I begin? I was a single father. My son was 7 or 8 years old at the time. And I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to get back into the real estate business. I didn't know what to do. Okay. I had been fairly successful throughout my life, but there was really the first time in my life that I had had so many losses that I was really lost and confused. I was broken. I did not know how to move forward. And I remember going into the computer and Googling, how do I become a better person? And the first thing that popped up was Mind Valley. I don't know if you're familiar with Mind Valley.
Yes,
Christina Lacchiani, and their courses. And I started taking course after course after course after course after course after course. And that was really my first introduction into the personal development space. That was really my first introduction into really establishing a different belief system that I had been accustomed to. Because I really felt that up to that particular point, although I had amassed an incredible amount of wealth, I was still living from a state of survival. I was a rich man thinking poor. I still had held on to a lot of the old belief system that was not getting me to the next level. I was not 10xing, to use Grant Cardone's words. I got to a certain point, but I was stuck. I didn't know how to get to the 8 figures and the 9 figures. And I wanted to do something different with my life. So I started exploring the personal development space. And there was one common thread that I found. And that common thread is that I was one of the few people in the audience. And that among the other people in the audience, the majority of the people that were there were for the service industry, were the people that were working at the hotel or whatever the venue that the event was being held. But up to right now, I had yet to see somebody that looks like me, that speaks like me, that sounds like me, that comes from my background and my culture on the stage, mainstream in America, that shares their story the way a Grant Cardone does, or an Evan Carmichael does, or a John Asserup does, okay? I saw you and the incredible panel of women you had, and y'all got on your stage, you had your stage, but the stories were being told in Spanish, okay? Why is it that we have not crossed our mainstream with 62.1 million Hispanics in the US? Why is it that we don't see a Latino, a Latina on the main stage, talking about the issues that really are holding us back as a community?
That is an excellent question. And part of the reason why we decided to start this in Spanish is because, like in most of the conference of the personal development workshop, we don't see, everything is in English. Everything is in English. And a lot of people and a lot of women, even though they speak English, they're a little bit hesitant to be there. Because I don't know if you know the difference, but when somebody speaks to you in your native language, it's like music to your heart and to your ears. So a lot of women were like intimidated by, even though they spoke English, intimidated by going to on stage. So we were trying to do that. We're trying to like target the Latin speaking community, which is right now growing by the minute. And the difference with right now and in the past is that most of the new immigrants, they have some sort of education, or most of them are very educated. And they just have to leave their country because of personal reasons, because of limitations. So we were trying, this has been the vision for now, and we may change that in the near future. But we want to get those women, because in our group, many of the women, they have PhD, they are very successful in what they do, but they were like hitting in the corner. They didn't find that voice because every event that they attended was in English, and they felt, and I wish I could tell you a different story, but it is intimidating. Even for me today, like I work in corporate America and everybody's white. I mean, when you're a woman, Afro-Latina, have a heavy accent, and you are not raised in the United States, you feel like, you know, like you're playing, like you're alone in this big party room, and you don't know who do you need to be playing with. So it's a lot of psychological or belief that might stop you from like pursuing, you know, an English audience. But I think we are all working on that. But the first step was to empower our community. I will say that in Spanish. And it's so many, like we put ourselves so many limitations. And this is what I said, you know, I'm gonna be out there with my accent, with the person that I am, because a lot of people do that and they are successful. Because if you're like, no, you know, I cannot be on a stage because I don't sound like Oprah. Of course, I'm not going to sound like Oprah because I have a totally different story than Oprah. So this is me with the way I am and with my, you know, imperfections, which made me a unique human being.
Well, and I think to your point, I mean, first of all, your accent is understandable. Okay. And I think that a lot of times it's something that is in our head. People are not,
exactly.
Yeah, people are not listening to our accent, and they're listening to what we're saying. Okay. Now, if you have an accent and you're saying something dumb, okay, that's a completely different story than somebody that may have an accent, but they are trying.
And also the perceptions, Pete. There's a lot of perceptions out there. If you sound French, you're smart.
Exactly.
You're probably traveling on business. But right. If you sound Spanish, you're probably traveling to the States on business. If you sound French, you know, people assume that you're wealthy and educated. But if you sound Spanish, people assume that you're picking orange in the farm or something like that. So it's a lot with the perceptions out there.
So let's talk about those perceptions. Let's talk about this perception as an individual. Yes. And let's take a woman. Let's take Deyanira. Okay. And let's say that today, what does she do to overcome some of those perceptions? What did you do to be on the Peter O. Estévez show, to not feel less than, or to not feel embarrassed or intimidated? What is it that somebody should do to prepare themselves? You know,
knowing that I'm unique, I have what it takes, and what I have is good. And it's a lot of personal work, like in the same way, in the same process that you said that you have to find yourself, go into personal development. We all need to do that. Like I'm in the process when I'm constantly learning, constantly studying, reading. We have a book club with our women. We are in the process of every day being a little better than before. And if I'm not proud of who I am, and if I don't value what I do and who I am, who will do it for me? I have to be my number one biggest fan. And if I made a mistake, if I might mispronounce something, it's okay. I mean, we are so afraid to make a fool of ourselves. And this is probably why we stay in a corner, because we are afraid, like I maybe think, well, Peter, our audience are not used to having somebody like me on the program. No, this is what I want. This is what I bring, like it or not. I mean, I know my process, and I know that I'm working on being a better person every day.
Absolutely. And honestly, I knew that you could bring a lot of value to the community. I know that there's women out there that may not be the accent, may not be the lack of education, maybe confidence, maybe something else. And I know that they hear your story, they're going to feel empowered, they're going to feel value. And going back to what I said early on, I think our stories, when we learn to share our stories in service, because we want to impact others, is when we're able to cross a bridge and communicate with people. We're able to get them to come forward and say, hey, that happened to me too. Now I know a path to change it. Now I know what I can do to change it. Now let's talk about Mujeres que se atreven y superan sus límites.
That's my favorite topic.
So tell us a little bit about it. What is it? How can people join? What do y'all do? I know that many of the women have written a chapter or their story. So tell us a little bit about that, and how can people join and become part of it?
Mujeres que se atreven y superan límites is a book series, but it's also a platform to get together with women that are thinking like you, women that want to help you. Like we have around 60 women right now that are part of the book stories, but we keep growing and evolving. Right now, we are going to open the platform to other women, because we were like a closed platform, like everybody empowering each other. We were some sort of a mastermind. Like you help me, I'll help you. You share my content, I share your content. You don't know how to edit a video, I'll help you to edit the video. And I write the script for you if you don't know how to do it. But right now we are evolving, and it's a great platform of women doing stuff to better themselves every day. Like we are doing conference. We are going to Colombia in July to do a set of conference also. And we are hosting a diplomate in Universidad de la Costa. We are going to London in September, also with a lot of women from Latin America. And it's an evolving platform, but I think our best resource is all the women that we have. We have women with so much talent. We have engineers, we have doctors, we have entrepreneurs, we have business owners, and all of us, like right now, one of our members is hosting a congress in New York City on beauty and wellness, and everybody joined therefore, and everybody help, and everybody's promoting the event, and everybody's there for that women that it's doing something. So it's some sort of a sisterhood, I will say.
I love it. I love it. You know, I hear incredible stories. I heard stories from an actress that gave us some tips on how to produce content in social media. I heard a story from her.
Yeah, that's Lilia Sisto. As a matter of fact, Lilia Sisto, she presented the play Cats in Mexico City, and she won the best play of the year in Mexico. Imagine. I mean, she has been in telenovelas. We have amazing women in our platform.
Absolutely. Another young woman that is a business consultant in Austin, Texas, that her customer base is primarily Latinos, and she was incredible. She was very witty with her vocabulary, and gave a lot of incredible, powerful information. So it was a great. Yeah, and you had a PhD doctor out of Mexico that talked about psychology, and you have an author of children's book, and
Adriana Devers, which is a poet, and she's amazing.
Yeah, she is. In fact, she's going to be on the show next week. Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love her.
Yes. So you had an incredible collection, for lack of a better word, of powerful women that are really making things happen in our Latin community, and they are going back to their community and empowering others. Now,
I'm reminded that you are not alone, that this is, you're not fighting alone. You're not alone on this. So many women has an idea, business ideas, and are just sitting on that idea for too many years.
so after, is there a volume 3 of the book?
We have a long waiting list right now. everything has been amazing and such a blessing and great, but we were not like ready to, start. So we have now a long waiting list of women that we are considering for the next volume. But we are traveling a lot. It has been like, I have no idea that this was going to be as big as it is, thank God. And we have so many great collaborators, and we are traveling and doing conference and doing this. But yes, we are launching a book trip pretty soon.
Well, I've really enjoyed it, and I look forward to some of the women that are listening to the podcast to reach out to you. Where can they find you? How can they join, or how can they get information about you and about what you're doing?
They can go to our webpage, Mujeres que se atreven y superan límites. I know it's long, but I'm probably going to send it so you can see it. Also,
it's going to be available in the show notes. Don't worry about it.
Okay, perfect. Also, my page is deyaniramartinez.net, and Mujeres que se atreven. It's I founded by Alba Leticia, which is in Texas, and also available on myself. And in social media, Deya Martinez, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere. If you put Deyanira Martinez, you will find me. Or if you put Mujeres que se atreven, you will find the link to all our events and all the amazing things that we are doing.
Deyanira, I really enjoyed our conversation, and I really enjoyed meeting you, and I love the work that you're doing. Keep inspiring women and keep inspiring the Hispanic community. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thanks to you, Peter. I love it. I love being here. And thank you for pushing me out of my comfort zone. I love it.
we need to continue to push each other out of our comfort zone and get out there.
Now you have to do it in Spanish for me. So that's next.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.